Which way genomics influences our world? Yes, I'm going to tell you 15 ways in which it is really helping out in various categories around the world. The first one is DNA sequencing. Advances in genomics are reducing the cost of genome sequencing by a millionfold. Did you know that your genome contains about 6 billion individual building blocks and that we can now read the order of all those building blocks in just about a day and for about $1,000? Dr. Catherine Kate Rubins became the first person to sequence DNA even in space. So DNA sequencing has got mobile and into space. She used a handheld instrument to sequence a DNA sample sent from Earth, showing that DNA sequencing can be performed even in space. In December 2017, fellow astronaut Dr. Peggy Whitson became the first person to sequence microbes brought in from Earth to the International Space Station itself. Second point is human genomic variation. Genomics is helping us understand what makes us different, each one of us, and what makes us the same. Did you know that at the base pair level, your genome is 99.9% the same as all the humans around you? But in that 0.1% difference are many of the things that makes you unique. When scientists agreed to use the one reference human genome sequence generated by the Human Genome Project, it became easier to determine differences among people's genome on a much larger scale. We have since learned that human genomes differ from one another in all sorts of ways, sometimes at a single base or even sometimes in chunks of thousands of bases. The third point is cancer genomics. Genomics is transforming how we study, diagnose, and treat cancer. We are increasingly able to detect cancers by testing just a blood sample, or that we are moving towards treating cancer not by where they are found in the body, but by how their genomes have changed. Large projects around the world, like the Cancer Genome Atlas in the United States and the Catalog of Somatic Mutations, known as COSMIC in the UK, they have now determined the genome sequences of thousands of cancer samples of many different cancer types. Fourth way is human origins and ancestry. Genomics is eliminating human and family origins at a level which was not previously possible. Did you know that our genome helps uncover the history of our ancestors, both near and distant? Advances since the Human Genome Project allows us to compare genome sequences among humans, living and long deceased, and also to trace our collective ancestral history. The Human Genome Project produced a reference human genome sequence that scientists now regularly use to compare with newly generated genome sequences. This reveals genomic changes that have occurred in different populations over time, which provides a more powerful way to decipher the various stories of human origins and ancestry. Not forgetting agriculture. Genomics is empowering farmers to improve the food supply. The ability to read genome sequences, coupled with technologies that introduce new gene or gene changes, allows us to speed up the process of selecting desirable traits in plants and animals. From genome sequencing, we can now find specific variants in those genes that contribute to desirable traits and select for those genomic variants in future crops. The US FDA has an entire network set up for whole genome sequencing of bacterial contaminants in food called as the Genome Tracker. What about the genomes at work? So we are learning how our genomes serve as blueprints for life. The genome sequence of an organism only reveals part of the story, and that is also important to determine how that organism interprets its genome and uses that information to build and operate itself accordingly. When scientists started the Human Genome Project, they didn't even know how many genes were there in the human genome. It then became as a big surprise to learn that human beings only require roughly 20,000 genes. Those 20,000 or so genes are encoded by less than 2% of our genome. What is the rest of it doing? And how does each cell read and interprets its genome? So we have lots to learn. Rare genetic diseases. Genomics is ending diagnostic odysseys for patients with rare diseases. Around 350 million people on Earth are living with these rare disorders. The ability to read the human genome quickly and cheaply has led to substantial advances in discovering the cause of rare disorders. Many families have gone through years of these problems, going from one specialist to another, trying to find the root cause for their family member's problem. It is difficult to overstate the relief that genomic testing has brought to many of these patients and families, not just for themselves, but eventually for other affected families who are finally able to connect and share their challenges. Not forgetting, they can also conduct several scientific studies now that they are part of the group. The next way how it is influencing is in pharmacogenomics. Genomics is helping us choose the right medication at the right dose for each patient. The sequence of your genome can determine how you respond to certain medications. Understanding pharmacogenomics or tailoring a person's modification based on their genome would not be possible without sequencing the genomes of many people and comparing their responses to medicines. One of the most important use of DNA sequencing is not just to sequence one human genome, but rather to sequence many human genomes to understand how genomic differences relate to different traits. Next point is non-invasive prenatal genetic testing. Genomics is revolutionizing health assessments before birth. The advent of highly sensitive and efficient methods for DNA sequencing has allowed a totally new approach for prenatal genetic testing, at least for the initial screening test for a new pregnancy. Specifically, these new methods allow the detection of very small amounts of fetal DNA that naturally circulates in the mother's blood during this period. Pregnant women now have the option of getting a new type of prenatal genetic testing, one that doesn't pose a risk for miscarriage. It involves a simple blood draw from these women. Enhanced forensics. Genomics is establishing more robust methods for DNA-based forensic analysis. Forensic analysis of DNA were being used well before the completion of the Human Genome Project. But newer approaches are speeding up and greatly improving the process, and larger DNA databases are making searches more powerful and more widely available. The National DNA Index in the United States now contains information from over 16 million people and has been able to aid in over 387,000 investigations. Microbes and microbiomes. Genomics is advancing the study of individual and community of microbes. For example, in 2018, infections from the influenza virus have been particularly very rough. A big difference between 2018 and 15 years ago, when the Human Genome Project was completed, is that genomics is now used routinely to track influenza virus infections in real time as the virus spreads across the country. These data are used to help design the vaccine used for our annual flu shot. Even so, just one mutation in the virus's genome can make a big difference in the severity of someone's infection. Beyond influenza, the most advanced genomic technologies are being used to track infections caused by the Ebola and Zika viruses as they spread and mutate. Next concept is direct-to-consumer genomic testing. Genomics is helping you access information about your genome and most importantly from your home. Did you know that anyone can buy a test that will read specific places in their DNA and provide them with information about their own genome? Well, advances in genomics since the Human Genome Project have led to an explosion in at-home or direct-to-consumer genomic testing. You can even seek genomic information without involving a healthcare provider in ordering the test or delivering the results. What can we learn about the natural world? Genomics helps us to understand evolution and protect our biological ecosystems. New methods for DNA sequencing have been used to read the genome of tens of thousands of organisms, some live and some extinct, allowing us to redefine the tree of life. Darwin would have never imagined the full complexity of the tree of life, but genomic technologies have been used to illuminate the natural world in amazing ways. Genomics helps us understand the biology of organisms across the world. Why are some faster or smarter than others? Why have they gone extinct while others are resilient to environmental changes? What do their genomes teach us about our own, etc.? Genome editing, definitely the most popular one. It is altering a genome with unparalleled efficiency and precision. Scientists have used laboratory methods to make changes in an organism genome for many years, primarily to study its biology or to introduce commercially advantageous changes. For example, you might have seen the glowfish, zebrafish that now produce a protein that makes them fluorescent. But in 2012, a new technique called as CRISPR was developed, and that revolutionized the genome editing process. Scientists who developed CRISPR recognized that they could borrow tools from the immune system of bacteria and develop bacterial scissors for surgically editing any DNA in any organism. CRISPR has made genome editing much simpler, faster, cheaper, and more accurate than previous methods, and the method is now used in laboratories all over the world. We have a Biotechnica CRISPR internship. Please do check it out for further details. Last is social context. Genomics is fostering an appreciation for what our DNA means for our health, identities, and culture. Did you know that the slogan, "It's in your DNA," what is it really about? Our ever improving ability to read anyone's genome sequences raises many issues regarding the social context of genomics. Information about our genome is starting to become part of our everyday life. Genomic information shapes societal messages about DNA in how we think about ourselves and how others view us. They're biotechnicals. Those are the ways how tremendously genomics is influencing our world. Please do comment in the chat box which of these following points you would like to know more about. Thank you for listening.